learning styles and focusing on the audience. I'll give you an example. When I have been putting together a program for ALDOT, first thing I consider is who's going to be in the audience. And I know most of them do not sit still for 8 hours or even for 6 hours. So we purposely put in physical activities. Like our recent training that we're doing involves blindfolds and a rope, but not the kind you probably thinking, but a regular activity with all of them. And they love it because they're normally up walking around and outside, and we do it outside if it's sunny to teach a point. And our training always has to relate back to training. Another thing, I put in a lot more group discussions, break out into groups when I'm going to ALDOT, because if I can't get them outside, you got to get them up moving, because that's who you are. Now, if I go to one of the accounting firms, especially the bigger the accounting firms, they want to sit there and they want you to go straight by the slides and never say anything other than the slides. So whenever Steve and I, Michael, Jane, Ruth, all go out to speak, it's a matter of saying, okay, who are we teaching? What is their day like? Because we want to make sure we accommodate what they're like when they're working. And I know that the audiences appreciate that just simply based on the feedback that we get through the evaluations. So we've looked at, as we said, we've looked at the beginning and end with the audience point of view. Second of all, maintain the purpose of the presentation. Now, you may say, well, it's our Leadership Academy. Well, there's several reasons anybody presents information. To inform, to teach, to motivate, to activate, which is what you are doing with your folks in the bridge and the well. You're hoping to activate them to do the work, and even though it didn't get done in the time frame, the idea was to activate, create action, persuade, and entertain. The three that the committee would like y'all to think of in any Leadership Academy needs, you're going to be informing them, teaching them, and motivating them. Those are the three purposes we'd like you to kind of key in on. If you're entertaining, good, but you don't have to be Ricky Smiley or some Ron White, some comedian out there. Persuade, sure, be persuasive, but that's not your main job. And of course, call them to action. Yes, but you already gave them they already have a job with ALDOT. So it goes back to the three. See, I went over. The three main things: inform, teach, and motivate. Those are the keys for what you're doing with your audience. How do you maintain a focus? Number one, practice your talk to purposefully target your reason for speaking. See, I'm here today to inform and teach. And that's why we have the content we do. That's why we have Stephen and I making various points, but sticking to those. Because we're here mostly just to do those two, teach and inform. Don't get sidetracked. The reason I'm saying this is because, some of the experiences I had, somebody will have a question, and then somebody, tangents off from their question, and all of a sudden your class is about something different. And it's always the facilitator's responsibility to bring it back on track. Even when you try to accommodate it and fit it in, that's how quick can you think on your feet. Like, very good point, and that's part of what I'm saying, and you bring it back in. Or sometimes you just say, that is so interesting, and you are completely right about that, and I hope we can get to that toward the end of this presentation. The idea is to get it back to the focus that you want. Stick with it to the end, and your last thought should reiterate the purpose of your presentation. Now, one of the things that is fortunate for y'all, everything is kind of outlined and built in those manuals and modules. In fact, but what I want you to give, most of you have about 60 minutes to do an introduction. Make a transition from the introduction into the topic you're teaching. Mention the homework, teach the module, engage the participants, conduct exercises, allow for discussion, and share a story from experience. You have 60 minutes. How many slides do you have? 10? Or do you have 30 slides? That makes a difference. But you have about 60 minutes. So the idea is, how can you fit that in and still allow for maybe questions at the end? That's a lot. How do you make this happen? Well, transition slides are built in. The committee looked at this, and if you come up like somebody has just taught Module 1, the first slide, it'll have a 0 because it doesn't count as a page number in their handout, but it's called a transition slide, and you kind of just read it to them. Well, now that we understand the history of ALDOT, that's Module 1, Module 2 shows us how we can be effective leaders who take ALDOT into future success. So they put in slides that do the transition for you. Secondly, objectives are built into each module, and that slide follows your module title page. So you'll always go straight to this. This will tell the participants and you how to stay on target.
These are reflected both in the homework readings that they have. The homework reading starts with those objectives, and then it's in the first slide of the PowerPoint, and then it's also in their handout. So they're gonna see it 3 different ways. They're gonna know when they sit down for this module what those objectives are. When we put together the fill in the blank, specifically the committee pulled out the words, so they had to highlight the things that are critical in each slide. So they're looking for what's that piece of information that helps you decide, all right, this is a slide that I'm presenting. Let me go look at the fill in the blank, the handouts that they're filling in. What did the committee say was most important? So that I can emphasize those words. All 3 of these are tied together. So the readings they do beforehand, the PowerPoint, and their handout all are integrated. There's not always, they're not word for word. The readings beforehand have a lot more information. But again, there's continuity between all 3.
And the committee was very, very detailed about making sure those flowed correctly. And that's why it's important for you to at least glance or look over the fill in the blank, because they're going to be doing this, waiting for you to say it in the presentation. Now, it'll be on the slide, but if you choose not to read that slide, they won't be able to fill it in. So those are the type of things you just want to highlight. They've also included a slide, like I mentioned earlier, discussion questions are built in. So this is actually in Module 2, Slide 4. And it says leadership discussion. What is effective leadership? So you have 2 options. I can immediately, as a facilitator, put them into groups. All right, let's count off 1 to 4. All right, 1 over here, 2 over there, 3 over there, 4 over there. Y'all got 2 minutes to discuss what is effective leadership. You watch your watch, and in 2 minutes you call them right back. Use probably 3 minutes. The key is not to let discussions go long. Another way, because it doesn't say group, it doesn't say individual, it's giving you options. The next one is, all right, turn to the person next to you, come up with a definition for effective leadership. 2 minutes. Y'all turn to each other, you discuss it, and then what I do, all right, why don't the 2 of y'all tell me what y'all came up with? Excellent, that's a good idea. What did y'all come up with? So now you're engaging them, which is one of the points we're going to make, so that they're not just sitting there listening. So when you look through your slides, look to where discussions are actually already put in to the presentation. Individual reflection is built in. Some of you will see assessments. Are you a leader? Self-assessment. They have to answer this. And then you talk to them about how do you think you did on that assessment. Anybody feel really good about themselves? Anybody know they need to develop anything? See what I'm doing? I'm pulling people in to engage them in discussion. All of these are built in.
If you think back to the learning styles that we mentioned before lunch, that's engaging in the PowerPoint, in the handouts, all 4 styles. So as they're filling information out, they have to answer their thoughts and opinions. That gives them how. There's opportunities. In every time the inspirational videos, there's a block in that handout that says, take some notes on what you heard. And so you can reflect back. Who heard something in that video that inspired them? So they get the chance to engage in the learning process in all 4 formats. So we really the committee did a great job of designing this specifically so that all 4 learning styles are incorporated.
And that's a good point that I didn't put it in the slide here. Mr. Estes, let's say that you are doing a leadership moment. In there, fill in the blank, their handout, is a block that is notes for Randy Estes' title, leadership moment. And there's the notes. So what do y'all do? All right, what did y'all get out of his video clip there? What did you get out of? What did you get out of it? What did you get? Do you see how all of y'all are correcting? Now this I'm just doing an example roughly. Absolutely, those are great comments, and that's what we wanted you to get out of that. Because, and then I go back to my presentation. That took maybe 60 seconds, so it's not eating up my time, but I'm engaging them through the material the committee has put in this presentation. Your final thought is always your last slide. This is where the committee, I don't know if they wanted to throw things at me when I said it. I didn't even know they didn't know this. But when you are doing a formal presentation, you never end with this. Questions? Any questions? Any questions? You never put a slide in there that says it. So what did we do so you would know it? Every single module, you will, when you reach to something that says final thought, that is your last slide. So if I click to that, then before I get it, I'm going to step in front of the slide, and I'm going to say, before we end this seminar, or this particular module, what questions might you have? And I'm going to teach you something about that little sentence. Are there any questions, or what questions might you have? The first one says, almost says, it doesn't, but do you have any? I hope not. The second one says, I expect you to have questions, so people more freely say it. If you want to jot it down, what questions might you have? That's saying, I know you're probably going to have some. Go ahead, what are they? Instead of, have any questions? Okay, good, let's go to the final thought. So the final thought triggers you to say something about questions or comments. Then you come back and go, well, y'all, thank you so much. Let's sum up this module 3, 4 with this quote by John Wooden. And then you read the quote, and literally, you walk off with that slide on. What it does is it completely ties up and brings to an end in a very professional setting. The thing is, all these are built in. These are not things you really have to do. Teach the module material, but share the story. They want your stories. Some of y'all need to, when you read your module, then take a day or two and go, do I have any experience? You know, like, what can I think of from my past 10, 15, 20 years that I could use as an example? So those are the ways you kind of think of stories you can use.
They can be positive ones. Hey, this worked really well. They can also be, this is a lesson I learned the hard way. Mechanical communication or mentorship. It's mentorship. Talk about a mentor that mentored you and how critical that was to your development. If it's mechanical communication, when you're writing, time you really didn't messed it up. And what you wrote wasn't what they heard. And then what did you learn from that? So you can use stories that go to both ends. Your experience gives that topic weight. It makes that module real in their work world. Instead of being just theoretical, hey, this is talking about whichever module you have, this is how this module applies to my professional career.
Very good. And I want to give an example. I'm practicing some of these right here. And I'm glad you said that, Stephen, because do you remember when I talked about the disc and I was kind of a high I with no S and C? Did you notice what I referred back to? At times I've worked with people and that haven't been good because they're heavy S and C's. And maybe I needed to know more so I could adjust myself. I told a negative. Now I could have said, this is a positive. I'm a high I. That's what all trainers are. So that's a real strength. You see, I'm making it positive. But instead, for y'all to understand the communication, I chose to give the negative side of being different from people. So that's what you can do, is think of what a negative helped explain this more, or what a positive example helped explain this more. And by the way, if you're worried about looking bad in front of people, believe it or not, audiences relate and learn more from people who give a little bit about themselves. See, a lot of times people will get up there and they're real stiff and they don't want to say anything about what they've done wrong or what they've done right. And I'm just teaching. Y'all, for 34 years now, my evaluations from trainings have said things like, it's because she's so personal. It's because she relates to the audience that we like her. I mean, I could be a stuffy presenter if I wanted to. Well, no, I guess I couldn't, but I would make it. But I realized early on, sharing those little stories makes a difference. You could go right now to audiences I've been to, and they'll probably tell you, yes, she's still single, and she's got a 94-year-old mama who's hell on wheels. I mean, that's the kind, because she's just the most hysterical woman you've ever met. Those are the type things, and they may think they know a little, but what it did, it taught them 50 other things. So don't be afraid to let a little bit out about yourself.
Being willing to share your weaknesses and what you've had to overcome helps you make you both more relatable and real. Like, yes, this is an area where in my career I struggled on this topic. And what I learned from my struggles was blank. Well, good. I'm this 28-year-old, relatively young engineer who's new to Aldot, and I'm struggling with the exact same thing. Congratulations. My boss's 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 boss struggled with that too. It's okay to struggle. I've got to keep working through. So which gives more value to your module? Pretending like we've all got it perfect, or recognizing that all of us struggle in aspects of our job and we have to work through that? Being real helps a lot in your credibility and your relatability.
And they're looking forward to, let me give you just one comment I heard within the last week. Obviously, your folks know about this academy, the leadership program. Somebody in your finance department is one of my good friends, and she was like, hey, I heard you had something. No, I didn't have that much. I'm just doing a briefing. And she said, oh my gosh, I know I'm in finance, but can I attend this? And I was like, you got to talk to the committee. I don't know really who's going. But this is the most unbelievable thing we've ever done. Y'all, that's not a true engineer. Yeah, that's somebody in finance wanting to be go through all the classes. I mean, that's pretty cool if you think about it. Y'all are doing a great thing in your audiences. It makes a difference. Maintain the purpose of the presentation.